Tara Stone, Executive Director for the Heart of Tennessee chapter of the American Red Cross. I appreciate you all letting me join you virtually today. And I'm here to give you a brief overview of the American Red Cross, tell you a little bit about our history and our local chapter, a few facts about each of our lines of service, how we might be able to help you in your line of business, and how you might be able to help us. May 21st of this year marks the 140th anniversary of the American Red Cross. And though it's been 140 years since Clara Barton founded the American Red Cross, the need to alleviate human suffering has not changed. Volunteers, donors, and partners unite from all backgrounds to help everyone in need, whether they're coping with disasters, medical emergencies, or the sacrifices of military life. And despite a close relationship with the federal government, the American Red Cross is not a federal agency and does not receive federal funding on a regular basis to carry out our services and programs. We rely on our volunteers, the time they give, as well as the generosity of our donors. Our local Heart of Tennessee chapter covers 10 counties, including Rutherford. We have 2 staff members and 225 volunteers. More than 90% of the Red Cross workforce is volunteers. We engage our volunteers through our 5 lines of service: disaster response, service to the armed forces, international services, health and safety training, and blood services. Most people are familiar with our disaster response when there's a tornado, a hurricane, or other large disaster, but you may not know that we respond daily to home fires. In the first 8 months of this fiscal year, July through April, we assisted 130 individuals following a home fire and provided over $70,000 in financial assistance, and that's in Rutherford County alone. It does not include our other 9 counties. And you may not know that unattended cooking is the leading cause of a home fire in the U.S. Another widely known line of service for the Red Cross is our blood services. We supply about 40% of our nation's blood products. We are continuing to test all donations for COVID antibodies currently. And one of the blood products we collect you may not be aware of is platelets. They are most often used for cancer treatment and have a shelf life of only 5 days. Nearly 7,000 units of platelets are needed in the U.S. daily. And the American Red Cross also offers health and safety training. Classes range from CPR and AED training, first aid for people, as well as first aid for your pets. We have not stopped our training during the pandemic and have recently begun offering a resuscitation suite for healthcare workers, which includes BLS, PALS, and ACLS. And if you're in healthcare, you'll be familiar with what those acronyms stand for. And although the Red Cross was born on the battlefield, our service to the armed forces and international services tend to be lesser known by the public about what we do. And while we offer many services, one of the most important is emergency communication. If there's a family emergency while someone is deployed, we will gather the needed information and communicate that to the military unit. And if that service member is allowed to return home, we'll help arrange transportation if needed and help them get back to be with their loved ones. And through our international services, we assist with fundraising for measles vaccines and provide international messaging for loved ones separated by armed conflict. And that's a quick overview of some of the services we provide. I've given Denise 2 handouts to share with you about our services, as well as some statistics on our service delivery for the first 6 months of fiscal year 21, where you can see about our responses, our blood collection, and our service to the military, among other things. And here's some ways that we might be able to help you in your line of business. If you follow our social media, we have American Red Cross of Tennessee on Facebook. We're also on Instagram and Twitter. We regularly share information and tips on safety and preparedness, which you can in turn share with your clients. We offer reminders to test your smoke alarms, to be weather aware, encourage people to make a home fire escape plan, as well as build an emergency kit to have on hand. And unfortunately, the weather is always a big topic of discussion in Tennessee, and you can share our apps with them as well. We have apps for emergency weather alerts. We offer a first aid app, water safety, and even a pet first aid safety. All of our apps are available on the app stores. And feel free to share those with your clients and people that you know. And if you know someone that has experienced a home fire or damage from a storm or flooding, you can encourage them to call us for assistance. We do help anyone with or without home insurance. So please recommend that they give us a call for help. We'll also help them through the recovery process. We also offer virtual preparedness programs that you can set up for a group or suggest to your clients what to do in case of a tornado, a home fire, or other storm or weather incidences. We have information on home fire safety that you can include in information packets you may give out to your clients. You can also schedule CPR, AED, or other training with us. And if you personally have a student in need of community service hours, we offer a great virtual opportunity through our Missing Maps program. It's proven to be very beneficial for students that are currently learning from home or just unable to participate in person for community service hours. And lastly, how can you help us at the American Red Cross? Some ways you could do that is to host a blood drive. You could donate blood yourself or encourage others to donate. The need is always there. We understand that not everyone's able to donate themselves, so we appreciate your encouraging others to do so. You can volunteer with us. We have lots of different in-person and virtual opportunities. You can also support us through a financial donation. Any amount helps. We're also looking to add members to our committees as well as our board of directors. And if you're interested in learning more about those opportunities, I hope that you'll reach out to me.
Hello, MYP. It's been a while since we've been together, for at least since I've been here. I know you've been here. It's been a while since I've been here. So I'm going to give you a fair warning up front. This event is going to be different than any event you've probably been to before. I'm going to keep on the schedule. I'll get you out of here on time, but it is going to be different. Usually about this time, I have everybody stand. I'm not going to have you do it. You're eating lunch, but everybody stand, raise your arms. My security guards come around and they're going to confiscate all your victim cards, because you're not going to have a chance to use an excuse today. What we're going to talk about is called "You Can't Handle the Truth." Some of you will get offended. Some of you be alienated. Some of you will say, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. One thing I know for sure, what I'm going to talk about today, I've lived it myself and I know it for sure. So buckle up, hang on to your hats. We're going to move pretty fast. You should have note pages somewhere on your table. There should be some notes that will help you keep up with it. This is really out of a book that is called "The Richest Man Who Ever Lived." And this book is not, what I'm doing today is not a book report. I'm giving you real life stuff. This isn't academic theory. This is a real life examples, real time. It's something that I've lived through myself. And so after my 62 years, I'm going to give you something that Solomon has given us in the Bible and given us in this book. When he's writing in Ecclesiastes, it's pretty depressing because he's basically showing us at the end of his life what he wished he would have done, what he would have done if he could do it over again, what he thinks is a loss, what he thinks is a great loss. And he's given us all these examples that we can follow. He doesn't want you to follow behind him in the same footsteps that he was in. And that's the same thing I'm going to give you. I'm going to share with you some ideas of some things that maybe you are already falling into, some traps, and how do you get out of them? Because that's the last thing we want. We don't want you to be behind, we want you to be ahead. So this is part of a personal growth series. I've written 2 books. One's called The Surge Effect. One's called Life Abundant 365. The next book is about personal growth. I don't have the title yet, so I can't give it to you, but it's about personal growth. Here's what I know. Most of us are pouring our everything we've got into our families, into our business, into the community. We're doing everything we can possibly do, but we're not growing ourselves. I grew 7 companies. I'm retired from the Air Force. Now, this is going to be a shock to you. You don't join the Air Force to get rich. Now, my recruiter told me I would get rich, but you don't join the Air Force to get rich. But after 20 years, I never made over 60 grand a year. And then I got into real estate, and real estate changed my life. And I had a mentor in the beginning, and he said, what is it that you want to achieve what's your objective for your real estate career? What is it that you want? And that was real easy. I wanted to make $250,000. I mean, I knew really where I wanted to be. 250 seemed reasonable to me. If I worked hard, I could do it. And he thought for a couple of 30 seconds, and he said, here's the difference between you and I. You want to make 250 grand a year. I have to make 250 grand a year. My lifestyle and my bills and everything that I've already committed myself to, If I don't make 250, I'm not making the monthly payments. So you want to make 250, I've got to make 250. And he gave me a challenge, never get to where I am. And I thought, dude, I would never get there. I mean, I'm used to living on 60 grand a year. If I make 250, I can live on 100, sock away 150, and in 10 years, I'll be a multimillionaire. I would never make the mistakes you made. And then I bought my wife her first pair of Gucci glasses and a Chanel sweater and a Chanel purse. And then I bought myself a Mercedes 500 SEC AMG. And I went on and on from there. I bought a Corvette. I bought a bigger house. Before I know it, I'm living on 350 instead of 250, and I'm earning about 2.25. That puts a lot of pressure on you. I'm a rags to riches, rags to riches, rags to riches story. Write this down if you really want to take a note. This is one you should take. Personal growth. See, if you're not growing, everything around you is growing, it will eventually overwhelm you. I had 7 companies, and it was going to overwhelm me, and it did. And you wind up spending so much time that you're committed to it, you can't give up. It's not easy to get out once you got in. If you have a lot of bills, it's not easy to get out once you got in. Personal growth is no excuses, no reserve, no regrets. What I'm going to show you today will be no excuses, no reserve, no regret. No excuses. You know what that is. There is no excuse. When I was going to write my first book, I got hooked up with a guy in Nashville. I found him in New York City, and he wouldn't take an excuse. I was able to use excuses forever on my book. I was trying to write it for 7, 8, 9 years. And he said, what's the holdup? Why haven't you? Well, I don't have the money. He said, money's not an issue. We'll stretch it out as long as we need to. Money will not be a factor. You will be able to afford to write the book. You'll be able to afford our fee. What's your other excuse? I said, well, I don't really have the time. He said, what are you doing tonight between 9 and midnight? Well, I'm sleeping. I mean, what do you mean what am I doing between 9 and midnight? I go to bed about 8:30. He says, not tonight. For the next 90 days, if you're really going to write a book, yes or no, are you in? We'll write your book from 9 to midnight the next 90 days. Are you in? Yes or no? No excuses. So in order to grow, you have to live a life of no excuses, no reserve. That means you give everything you got, you pour it all in, you do everything you can possibly do, and you leave it all on the field, and then no regrets. The biggest thing I've discovered of regrets is not so much what you did, it's what you didn't do. It's not what you did, it's what you didn't do. Now I'm a true rags to riches story. I was not making much money in the Air Force. Then I made a lot of money in real estate. And then I lost that, and I wasn't making much money in real estate. And I managed to get myself back to speaking and writing books and selling real estate. And I'm a 3-time loser and a 3-time winner. So we're going to end up on a win state. But the biggest deal is I'm telling you that because this is not academic theory. This is real life, real example. And I'm going to give you some 4 things that you're going to be able to take away with you today. Solomon really missed what he was doing. Even though he was totally successful, richest man who ever lived, the wisest man who ever lived, all these things happened, he really missed the mark. He said that there was 4 things he went after in his life. It's the same 4 things we go after in our life. And he said that they're meaningless and it's chasing the wind. And we're going to study that pretty hard for the next few minutes anyway. You know, people buy stupid stuff. I told you I bought a Corvette. I bought a Mercedes convertible. I bought purses. I bought purses. Really, by the time you got them paying for the purse, there wasn't any money to put in the purse. The purse was so expensive. I bought purses. I did exotic trips. I bought my daughter a Mercedes. Chris, some of you know Chris Day. I bought him more cars than I care to think about. I made sure that the kids have more than I ever had. And I always had this excuse. I'm doing it for the family. I'm doing it for my family. Now, I wasn't ever around. I was busy working 7 different jobs. I was never around. But I felt like I was giving my family something that they really needed when they needed me more than they needed the stuff. So we do some stupid stuff. Here's what I know. We buy stuff to impress people we really don't like. I mean, if you think about it for a minute, and if you're really honest, if you can handle the truth, if we're going to talk truthful in here, if we're really going to, nobody else will ever hear this, it's just us. If we're really truthful, we buy stuff to impress other people. We buy houses to impress people. I bought a big house, 5,000 square foot. It's my wife and I in a 5,000 square foot house now. Kids are gone. Grandkids come over and tear up the pool. And I'm in a 5,000 square foot house I don't need. We buy stupid stuff. I'm going to give you 2 things that you can take away right now that if you'll just jot these down, you'll take away, will change your life conditions. Number 1 is stop doing stupid stuff. Just stop. Stop where you're at. Now, how do you know if something's stupid? If you ever hear somebody say, hey, watch this, what's getting ready to happen is probably going to fit the category of stupid stuff. So stop doing stupid stuff. Your life will change exponentially. It'll improve exponentially if you'll just stop doing stupid stuff. And number two is start doing what you know you should do. You know what you should do. Look, there's no magic pill. If it was just about information, we would already have it, and you would already have six-pack abs and you'd be a billionaire. We wouldn't be having this meeting. But the information's out there to do anything we want to do. The problem is we don't do it. We know what we should do. We should work harder, should work less, should eat better, should work out, should. We wind up shoulding all over ourselves, right? Hallelujah. But the problem with it is that we never ever learn from it. We just keep on doing the things that we want to do instead of things that we need to do. Self-inflicted pain is what I call it. I loved when I used credit cards. If you have enough business and you guys may already have one of these, you can get a black Amex. You get a black card. There's no limit on it. There's no limit to what you can buy. There's no limit to how much. And I had one of my companies I invested in was a building company, and we would buy lumber packages on it because I got points. I got points. We were traveling and we had points. So they could pay for the trips with that. It seemed smart to me. We would run in $100,000 a month in bills on the Amex. And it was no problem paying it because business was good until the crisis hit in 08, 09, 010, 11, 12, 13. If you were in real estate, it lasted about 5 years. Coming up with 100 grand was pretty hard. It was difficult. It put a lot of pressure. I used to have no gray hair. Now I've got gray hair. I used to have more hair. Now I've got less hair. It's because of all the stress and the worry. And I'm trying to tell you this today because I think somebody in here will make the same mistakes that I made. And we want to make sure that doesn't happen. I used to run a lot. For those people that know me, I ran races I ran for the Air Force. I ran races every single weekend. I'd run 110 miles a week until I had Achilles tendon tear and surgery and replacement. Now I run zero. I do a Peloton, but I used to run a lot. And when I was in Knoxville, I met a guy, I'll never forget him. He was introduced to me this way, and I heard him introduce himself 100 times. Hey, I'm Chucky Jones. Jones, try to keep up with the Joneses. And so I thought, well, that arrogant rascal, I'll show him. I'm an elite runner, so I'm going to run. I'll bury him today. I could never beat him. I tried for 8 months, 10 months, racing everywhere, every weekend. He was usually at most of the races. If you're a real runner, you run the same kind of routines, and I could never beat him. And I did everything I could do. He was watching what he ate. He was a dietitian. He was a nutritionalist. He worked out harder. He stayed trim, and he took it serious. He wasn't working, so he was working on his running, and I could never beat him. So one day I thought, I'm not even having fun anymore. I'm spending so much time trying to beat this guy. What am I going to do with this? I just surrendered. I just put the white flag up and just surrendered and said, you won. Chucky, I can't keep up with you. I'm going to stop, and I'm just going to do what I do. I'm going to run my races. I'm going to go back to enjoying myself. And, about 8 months later, I'm running in a race, the Knoxville Expo, 10K, and I finished. And as I always finish, I always go back to the finish line and cheer the other runners on. Chucky was coming in behind me, 10 spots behind me. I beat Chuck. I had beat him, but I didn't know he was in the race, but I had beat him. What was the difference? The difference was I was running my race. I was doing what I needed to do. I was running the way I needed to run, not the way Chucky was running, not doing his race. What Jones are you trying to keep up with? Think about your own life. Is there some place in your life that you're trying to keep up with somebody else? Look, we all look good on Facebook. We did a speaking event for, I don't know what they called themselves. They were a mastermind group. They were in their 20s, just mere children in Nashville 3 or 4 weeks ago. And the lady says to me, I'm Facebook friends with you. I said, you are? And I've got about 4,000 Facebook friends, so that's possible. I said, okay, well, and so I took her name, took her card, and I looked her up on the car when I was on my way home. I looked her up before I got on the road. I looked her up. I was Facebook friends with her, but what I saw in real life and what I saw on Facebook, I thought it was her mother. She had 30-year-old pictures of her in Facebook, and I thought it was her mother. So we all look good on Facebook, not so good in real life. The question of it is, who are you trying to keep up with and why? So let me give you these 4 things. Look, life's hard enough. We don't need to make it any harder. Let me give you the 4 things real fast. Number 1, he said, was a waste of time was pleasure. Said he searched after pleasure. He went after pleasure. He said, it said in the Bible that he had 700 wives and 300 concubines. Now, I thought he was supposed to be smart. I got one wife and one daughter. That's enough women in my life for me to, that's enough. I used to teach a Sunday school class at a little Baptist church down in the county, and every year I'd host a Christmas party. And there was probably 30 in my Sunday school class, and they would all come. And there was one couple that on this party the night, they were late. They were not only late, they were 30, 45 minutes late. The party was half over by the time they got there. And it was raining and cold and nasty out. And they finally got there, and the woman, the wife, she comes in and she barely mumbles anything. I'm sorry we're late. And she goes on, she's soaking wet. She's wet from top to bottom. Finally, about 5 minutes later, the husband comes in and he steps inside the door and he looks at me and he says, now he's one of these guys that has one of these ZZ Top beards, overalls, bald headed. He said, feller, you reckon if a man had 100 wives, one of them be in a good mood? I said, well, I'm not going to get involved in that fight, but apparently they were having one. And he's saying in his word that he searched pleasure. He didn't let anything that he had desire for in his eye, he didn't let any of it escape him. That Solomon, the wisest man, the richest man who ever lived, everything he ever wanted, he went after. Sounds like giving up, sounds like growing up. He went after it, and he went after it with a vengeance. And he had everything he ever wanted. Now, they estimate today's value would be about $2 trillion. I guess you can afford to do anything you want if you had $2 trillion. But he's had enough money and all the money, and he still wasn't happy. And we're going to discuss why. And I'm sitting thinking, what about us? What do we chase after for pleasure? Nice restaurants, nice clothes, fancy cars, better address, bigger house. I told the guys at the mastermind group, the travel, I actually like to travel. I like to go to a lot of places. I traveled all the time. And I mentioned Rosemary Beach. I don't know why I mentioned Rosemary Beach. I had a beach house, and it was just on my mind, Rosemary Beach, when I talked about it, because that was another thing I bought that I didn't need, was a beach house. And when I mentioned Rosemary Beach, it really set this guy off, because he came up to me afterwards and said, well, I'm taking my kids to Rosemary Beach for our family vacation. I don't think it's that big a deal, but we deserve a vacation. We're going to be there as a family. We're going to be doing the things that we want to do. I work hard, and I got a special deal on it. It's only $7,900 for the week. $7,900 for the week? He said, yeah, it's just $7,900. I get a deal on it at VRBO. I think my first house was $8,100. He's spending $7,900 for a week at Rosemary Beach. Now, you may say there's no problem with that. The problem with it is this. He still has house payments. He still has car payments. He still has tuition. He still has a life to put for. He still has bills to pay off. He still has a retirement to invest in. He still has all these things, but yet he's still spending $7,900 for 1 week. The other problem is he's just doing that for summer vacation. He's got spring break he's going to buy. He's got fall break he's going to buy. He's got Christmas breaks he's going to buy. You see, the kids are out of school more than are in, and you got to pay for this. So I'm thinking $7,900. So the more I talked to him, the more I could see he was offended. But you know, I smile about that because that's good. It makes him think. He's thinking now. So the number one thing was pleasure. Now he says he chased after all pleasure. I'm not against pleasure. I'm for it. But I think if pleasure takes over our lives and it's all we do, then that's a problem. Number two is knowledge. Knowledge. Solomon, he went after everything he could learn. They said he had the highest learning abilities of anybody in earth. He's the smartest man and the richest man. He's the most wisest man who ever lived. And he had the scholars to learn at the high learning. Look, we got it today. We got undergraduate degrees. We got graduate degrees, PhDs. We've got stuff he didn't have. We got YouTube. We got Google. We got Rabbi Google, where we can find anything out we want. You know, I heard the other day that you can find on YouTube how to take out a kidney. That's somebody who's in debt that needs to sell something pretty bad. There you go. They probably get $35,000 for it. Knowledge. Knowledge. I don't have anything against knowledge. I don't have anything against the stuff we're talking about is all fine in the right season. I have nothing against knowledge. The problem with knowledge is we don't act on it. I always heard knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. Knowledge isn't power. Knowledge plus action is power. If you have, let me give you an example. I love red velvet cake. Julius red velvet cake is the best red velvet cake we have in town. I can attest to it. I've tested it over and over again. Love red velvet cake. I have people bring me red velvet cupcakes, love them. Cookies, love them. I even got a brownie, a red velvet brownie. Never heard of it. Brought it in, love it. I love red velvet. If you tell me that you have the recipe, you have the knowledge of the recipe for Julia's red velvet cake, and you want me to put a pot of coffee on and you're going to come over and we're going to deal with some red velvet, man, don't you show up with just the knowledge of it. Don't show up that you're just going to bring in the knowledge of how to do it, because the knowledge without action, the cake was what I'm after. If you just come and you show up and I've got a pot of coffee on and you're just going to tell me how to make it, it's not going to go well for you. It's already not going to go well for me, but it's not going to go well for you. So knowledge without action is a waste of time, for sure. Number 3, work. I'm all for work. I love work. I was excited to come see you guys today. I'm excited when I get a chance to speak. I'm excited when I write a book. I'm excited when I'm selling real estate. I'm excited to work. I look forward to work. It's not work to me. It's passion. I love it. And I want to do it as often as I can. I have no intent. Chris always asks me, when are you going to retire? I have no intent on retiring. I'm going to keep doing this as long as I can physically do it. I love to work. The problem with it is that we turn work into our life's goal. We pour everything into it that we can possibly pour into it. Scott's mentioned something to me a few minutes ago. There's so many things that need to be done. Look, just to list a house takes about 100 things. There's about 100 steps to do it, but there's really only 3 or 4 things that move the needle. Those are called the vital few. The vital few, I'd write that down, the vital few. Everybody's career, everybody. I've never seen one yet that I speak all over the country. I've never seen one yet that doesn't have the same situation. There's 4 things in most people's lives that move the needle 90%. You need the 100 things, but you can outsource most of this stuff. There's 4 things that will move the needle 90%. Let me give you an example. Dr. Oz. Dr. Oz. Everybody knows him. You may not like him, but everybody knows him. He doesn't, when he operates on a patient, he doesn't go in and do the pre-op. He doesn't warm up the operating room. He doesn't put the patient out. He doesn't open the patient up. He doesn't do anything until it's time for the 1 or 2 or 3 procedures that he does, that he steps into the room and he actually does those procedures. He's mastered it. He's an expert at it. He gets paid more for it than anybody in the world. No other surgeon on the heart gets paid the money that he gets paid because he's an expert at it. He has put himself in a vital position for the vital few. He's practiced it. He's done it all. He doesn't do those other things. He outsources all that, or he gets somebody else to do it, or he doesn't do it at all. And then when it's time for him, he walks in, does his little part, drops the scalpel, he's out, and he goes on to the next thing. He's writing books. He's doing so many other things. My question is, what are the 4 things that you have to do for work, and what have you mastered? And who's better at it than you? And what do you need to do to get better than them? What are you mastering in the vital few? If you really want to get paid the maximum money, be worth it. If you really want extraordinary results, give extraordinary effort. This is not rocket science. This is simple. The problem with it is common sense is not common practice. We don't practice and master what it is we do. I wanted to be a change management specialist. Everything changes. In my book, Life Abundant 365, it's called identity shifts. There are identity shifts in your life. That's when, I was in the Air Force and everybody knew me as an Air Force guy. And then all of a sudden I'm in the private sector. 20 years goes by like this, and I'm in the private sector. I'm not in the Air Force anymore. My identity changed. I was a father and now I'm a grandfather. My identity changed. So this thing is happening to us all the time. What are you doing to make the shift? And are you doing it the best way you possibly can? Work is a good thing. I don't have any problem with work. I'm glad we should all do a good job. Solomon did the best job of anybody. He built tabernacles. They said he had barns for 1,000 horses and 1,000 chariots. Now I've sold a 12-car garage house one time. I've never sold one with 1,000 garages. We're talking about numbers that we don't understand, and he says it's not worth it. There's a time and place for everything. So number 3 was work. Number 3 is work. I hear people brag that they're working 80 hours a week. Why? Why would you do that? Why in the world would you work 80 hours? Shame on you. If you're telling me that if that's a badge of honor that you're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, I got a question for you. Why? Can't you get it done? Are you really working? If we put a task on you and we watched you and videotaped you all day long, do you think we'd really see 80 hours worth of work out of you in a week? Would it be more like 8 hours? There's probably 10 hours worth of coffee, 30 hours worth of ball games, talking about ball games, shooting a breeze, 10 hours worth of this, and maybe some sleeping. I don't know what you're doing, but you couldn't be working 80 hours a week. It's impossible. Now, if you started a new company, you may work over a long period of time. You may work more than normal, but you wouldn't work 80 hours a week. It's a badge of honor in our society to say we're working. You know, when you go on all these trips that you're paying $7,900 for the 1 week, you're still working. Here's the problem. When you're at work, you're planning a trip. When you're on the trip, you're wondering what's going on with work. You're so connected and you're disjointed that you're working all the time, and your family still not benefit from it. And you're putting yourself in deeper and deeper stress. If you ever wake up in the middle of the night thinking about your bills, you're already there. If you ever wonder how you're going to make the bills, you're already there. If you're not able to make the bills that you've got, when the best of times, you're going to have worse time when it's the worst of times. You're already there. The problem with it, work, you can't work enough to earn enough to pay enough when you're trying to buy stuff that's stupid. If you're just buying things because you're trying to impress somebody, that's not where you need to be. The truth of the matter is, you're going to have a life of excuses, a life of regrets, and a life of misery, and you'll die early. Solomon said, you're chasing after the wind. Number 4 is money. This is the one I hate to talk about the most. Money. Why? Because there's never enough of it. There's some people in here that have more money than others. In this very room, somebody's got the most money. None of us have enough money to even compare with Solomon, but somewhere in here, let's just use Scott Kimberly. He's the standard. He's got the money. He doesn't know where it is, but he's got the money. Well, let's use Scott. Maybe we use you as an example, brother. All right. I've got his bank account right here. Hang on just a second. I'm only kidding on the bank account. Scott's got all the money, more money than any of us in the room. And if I said to Scott, you're the richest guy in the room, he'd say, well, it doesn't seem like it. It doesn't feel like it. I know there's people that have more money. They're lying about it. He doesn't have enough. You never have enough. There's not enough money to go around. So no matter how much money you made $60,000 last year, you make $85,000 this year, it's not enough. Why? Because money will control you if you don't control it. Money will slip out of your hands. My wife and I got out of the Air Force, never made over 60 grand. 60 was a really good number. I made about 58,000 on my peak time. And I retired 25 years ago, so I'm an old guy. And man, after we were out in the private sector for 2 or 3 years, I told her, I said, I think we need to go cold turkey for 1 year. She said, what do you mean? I think we need to only buy what's necessary for 1 year and see how much money we could save. We'll just do it for 1 year. We'll never do it again. We'll use the money wisely, but we need to try to go 1 year with just buying necessities: electric bill, water bill, food, groceries, gas, fuel, no new clothes, no new purses, no new glasses, just the necessities. We saved 68 grand. People say, well, that's not that much money. Well, that was that year. We did it again, saved $112,000 the second year. And that kind of set us off to our retirement. I mean, I have an Air Force retirement, but it's not enough. I'll have Social Security if there's still any left. You have no hope of having Social Security. I'm looking around these young faces with no lines on them. You have no hope of Social Security. Don't bank on that. You need to be putting the money away now. So money is a tool. It's just nothing but a resource, and it's a tool. But here's the problem with it. It's never enough. No matter what happens, you don't have enough. And we don't know how long you'll live. So you may, people are living longer and longer. In my family, the men usually live to be 94. So let's say I retire at 64. What am I going to do for 30 years? And how am I going to pay for it? So you have to think ahead. Spending money is not a good thing. Not when you look, I don't have anything against money. I don't have anything against pleasure. I don't have anything against knowledge. I don't have nothing against work. But I think it's all done in a season. There will come a time, I don't have bills now. So if I want to buy a Corvette, this will be a good time to buy one. That's why you see most of the guys with white hair driving Corvettes. It's the time to buy one. And not when you're 23, 27, 32. Not if you've got a mortgage and you got a car payment and you got bills, you got tuition, you got savings. That's not the time to buy it. There's people in here that are driving Mercedes, I'm sure. That's not, why did you pick a Mercedes? Why in the world did you do it? Or who are you trying to impress? Now, if you just absolutely are a Mercedes lover and that's what you wanted and that's what you got, enjoy it. But I would pay it off and I'd drive it for 10 years. I wouldn't try to trade it off anytime sooner than that. People tell me that they don't really care about money. I've discovered this in my life, 62 years. If you think you don't care about money, if that's what they're telling you, they'll lie about other things too. That's not the only thing they're lying about, because they do care about money. As soon as somebody says something about they don't care about money, ask them to give them yours. Ask them to, let me have your money and I'll put it with mine and I'll have enough and you won't. But listen, money is an important tool. It's a control item. It's a piece that will either control you or you can control it. So what did he say at the end? Solomon out of the book, what did he say at the end? He said this, I'm going to read it to you. Now, all that has been heard, here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God, keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment, and including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. And then Jesus says it this way, but seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. He didn't say seek first Rolex. He didn't say seek first Mercedes. He didn't say seek first the big house. He said to seek him first, and all these things will be added to you. I think that's an important statement. I think that it's important that we seek the right things and let all this other stuff fall into place. Look, I want you to have everything that you ever want, what your heart desires, but I want you to have it in the right time. The right time means maybe not now, maybe later. You might have to make a sacrifice. What would your life be like if you took the next year and only bought necessities? Didn't go on trips, just sacrifice for 1 year. What could you do? How much money could you save? What could you do with it? And what would it look like a year from now? And 2 years from now and 3 years from now? Because that money will grow. And that money will last you for a lifetime, we hope. But what if you don't do it? The money's going to go. Look, when I was putting 100 grand on an Amex card, it was easy to make 100 grand. I had cash flow. It wasn't any problem. I didn't see any worry for it. There was no alarm going off that this is too much. I was getting points. We could travel to the breakers for free. We could fly for free. We could stay in the fancy hotels, the 5 stars, the Ritz-Carltons for free because we have points. Here's what I got an idea. How about no credit card and how about cash? How about instead of points, you're actually using cash? You use them wherever you want. They'll take cash almost anywhere. When COVID was here, they wouldn't take cash. I work off of cash. I don't have a credit card. Well, you got to have a credit card. No, I haven't been without one for 12 years. I don't have a credit card. I use a debit card. See, it hurts when the money comes out of your account right now. It's not that, it's no pain to it when you get to make monthly minimums. But when the crisis hits, when the financial crisis hit in 07, 08, 09, 10, 11, 12, and 13, when it hit, coming up with 100 grand was difficult, painful, hard. Couldn't do it. What about you? Maybe your payments maybe you only got 3,000 on your card, 4,000. Maybe you got 40,000. I sell houses with people all the time. They're complaining the interest rate's 3.9. The credit card bill interest rate's 24.9. But you don't see that. You just see the minimum monthly. Well, I don't have credit cards. Well, great. You're on the right track. But if you do have one, how much is your budget on there right now? What's the balance? And how are you paying it off? And if something happened to your job, look, this pandemic just hit. And here's what I noticed. People couldn't go 60 days without help. You know what's getting ready to happen right now? I hate to tell people, but the forbearance they took, where they took the 3 payments, they better be calling a good attorney like Scott, where they took the 3 payments and deferred them. They thought they could put them and tack them on the back of their mortgages. Some of those contracts don't say you can do that. Matter of fact, May 1st, some people are going to be dealing with that right now. They're going to be dealing with those mortgage forbearance payments right now. They're going to have a couple options. One's going to be sell their house and pay it off. I like that option. I sell real estate. That would be a good option for me. Number 2 would be to make a higher note and pay it off over 6 months, maybe add $800 a month to their current house payment. Or the other one would be pay it all in lump sum. Well, if you couldn't make your house note when you came due and you took the forbearance, how are you going to make 3 or 4 house notes at one time? So we got some problems coming in the mortgage sector. There were people that didn't pay their truck payment. They got to put their car payment, their truck payment, they got to put it off for 3 months. Hey, this is the truth. Those people are going to have to, they're going to have to pay the piper. Here's what I heard. Well, I've already got an 84-month note on my truck. I've already got 84-month loan on it. I had to think, how long is 84 months? How many years is 84 months? These are the things I'm talking about. It's that you can afford it per month if everything goes right. What happens if everything goes wrong? Well, I'm glad we come to lunch with Don Day and got to hear this good sound. I'm telling you this because I care about you. I want to add value to people's lives. I'm telling you this because you know this already, but is it something that you're living or is it not? Is this something that you're planning for the best or not? Or are you just doing it day by day? Look, here's what I know. I was never going to live on 250 and it wound up being 350, 400. When I was cashing $400,000 checks, I was never going to need any. I have more money than I could ever imagine. Nothing was ever going to set that aside until I got into the development business and the market fell. $400,000 doesn't go very far. $1 million doesn't go very far. I can tell you this, I had 60 rental houses and 3 commercial buildings that I negotiated with to get out of the trouble with the banks. It didn't go very far. And this is from a smart guy that was in the business, been doing it for years, 20 years. And it caught me. So I'm telling you this to say this. I tell you all that to say this. Your best days are ahead of you. You got great days ahead of you. There's going to be great times ahead of you. There's going to be plenty of time to buy Corvettes, Mercedes-Benz, or whatever little thing tickles your fancy. A nice house, a vacation home, a VRBO, whatever it is that you've got planned. I had those same plans. And I know this, going from rags to riches, to rags to riches, to rags to riches. I'm not going back to rags. I'm not going back. You can't take me back. And how do I know that for sure? Because I have no debt. I have no desires of getting in debt. I don't have any desires of having a beach house. I've already been there and done that. I had a beach house for 14 years. It was great for my family. They had keys. We never rented it. Even on the worst times, they had keys. They could go anytime they wanted to. And they enjoyed it. Until one day I woke up and realized that I'm not doing them any favors. They need to work and pay their way. And then they'll get my money when I die. Now, I don't know how long that's going to be, but I know that they'll have their own money. They'll have their own setup. They'll have their own deals. They'll make their own mistakes. Chris just turned 40. I think you guys would kick him out of your club. What's the age limit, Scott? Yeah, he'd be kicked out. Gone. I tell you all this stuff that your best days are ahead of you. If you'll do a couple things, stop doing stupid stuff, do what you know you should do, and take this 31-day challenge. Denise, did you manage to get them on the tables, the 31-day challenge? 31-day challenge is this. It's asking God for wisdom every morning for 31 days. Get up in the morning. Hey, your morning routine would be to ask God for wisdom. He says in the Bible that if you ask for wisdom, he's honest and faithful to give it to you. So he'll give you the wisdom. Second thing it says is to read a proverb a day. Well, I don't really read the Bible. I don't really understand the Bible. You'll understand Proverbs. I've given you an example in there for Proverbs. What you guys have is just an excerpt from Proverbs. So example, Proverbs number 4 says, wisdom will eventually reward you. And basically they're talking about there will be times in life when you have to say no to wealth or material possessions in the name of the wisdom. However, if you seek wisdom above all else, you will eventually reap rewards. If you'll read Proverbs, in other words, Proverbs 1, you read on the first of the month. Second day, you read Proverbs 2. Third day, 4, 5, 6, on and on and on. It's a 31-day challenge. At the end of 30 days, you will have enough wisdom to make these decisions for yourself. And here's the deal. You think you're making good decisions right now. I thought I was making good decisions. Everything I bought and did, I had a good reason for it. I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it because I work hard. I deserve a new car. And here's the beautiful one. I love this one. My accountant would say, well, you need some tax deductions. And I said, what I need to do? Well, buy a couple of trucks. Well, trucks are 60, 70, 80 grand each, times 2, 180 grand. To get what? A 30% tax bracket? You get a 30% tax break? And now you owe on $160,000 on 2 trucks? And guess what I did? Bought trucks, bought cars, bought vans. I got into business. I thought one day I woke up and I thought after reading Proverbs, I thought, That's not wise. I didn't get in business to get tax deductions. I didn't get into business to save taxes. I want to save as much money as I can, but I didn't get in business because I would have tax deductions. But some of us are doing that. Now, if you need a truck in your business and it's time for a truck, then you take the deduction. You had to buy a truck anyway, but you don't buy one just because of that. So I'm giving you this to at least get you this much here. Take the promise, take the challenge, do it for 31 days and see if I'm right or wrong. Test me, see if I'm right or wrong. Is there one person that would take the challenge? Can I see your hand? One person. I'm gonna give you a book. Who else would do it? I would give it to Kimberly, but he's got so much money, he can buy his own. Who raised their hand back here? I'm gonna close with give you 3 words that will change your life. Somewhere, somehow, somebody said something, done something, offended you, maybe me today, has offended you and you're not feeling good about it, or you never had a problem, you can't get over it. And one of the proverbs in there says that you got to forgive and forget. I'm going to give you 3 words that will change your life. I'd write them down. Get over it. Get over it. Whatever it is that somebody's, look, you don't need to spend your time trying to beat somebody else or trying to keep up with somebody else or trying to hold back from somebody else. You need to get over and get on with your life. Your best days are ahead of you. And I look forward to seeing how things work out for each one of you. I hope you take the challenge. Thank you.